Hey guys, Brian Castro here with Better Chess Training. This is an extra video that I'm uploading this week. The reason why is that the game that I presented earlier this week, I got a comment from Jeremy Lin, one of our subscribers, and he mentioned that I missed an opportunity. And I analyzed the position in question and found out that I think he's right. So here's the position in question. If you want, pause the video and take a couple minutes and analyze it yourself and see what I missed, and then compare it to my analysis. Okay, see you on the other side. Okay, I hope you had a chance to look at it. It was actually quite an interesting position, but let's take a look at it here. In the game, I played queen to c2, and it eventually led to a victory, but I think the suggested idea from Jeremy Lin is actually quite more elegant and better. And he suggests sacrificing on b5. And he didn't give me any specific lines, but he talked about ideas of knight to c7 check as well as the vulnerability of this rook. So I went into it a little bit, starting with bishop takes b5. Now we're going to look first at lines with the natural a takes b5. So after this, the idea here is knight takes b5, threatening knight to c7 check, which of course would be very good for white. Now, first let's take a look at lines where let's look at a couple lines here. If black were to try something like just knight to c4, just to expose this. Expose this rook here, or this queen to the rook, then I think knight to c7 check is just very good here. Of course, the queen cannot take it because of queen takes a8 check, and if the king moves, then we could either take with the knight or we could go ahead and take with the queen, which would cause which we could trade queens and we'd win material. So that's knight to c4. If we go back and he tries to counterattack, this is another line that I looked at. Black actually has an interesting move at knight to b6, counterattacking. And at first I thought, well, after knight to c7 check and king to f8, then after white moves his queen, say, to c2, rook to c8 could be a little bit annoying. However, if we go back here after king to f8, queen to b5 looks good because it attacks. Now we have a double attack. It's attacking this knight as well as this rook. And if black were to play something like knight a to c4, then we can just win the exchange, or we could even look at ideas based on b3, but probably just taking here on a8 would be sufficient for an advantage. Okay, so then what I initially thought, actually going back to this position, is that black could simply castle, and then now we don't have knight to c7. Okay, and I looked at this position for a little bit, and I realized that in the original position, this knight here on a5 can be vulnerable as well. So we don't have knight to c7, but we do have bishop to c7, which forks the queen and the knight. And so let's take a look at a couple lines here. Queen to e8, which seems to be the safest square because black's queen to c8 exposes the queen here to a discovered attack. So queen to e8, bishop takes a5, and then I thought to myself, well, bishop to d8 attacks this pin piece. Then I could play something like b4, which protects it, but that gets a little bit, that just seems a little awkward because now this bishop is not participating in the game. However, I actually saw knight to c7, forking the rook and queen looks good. And after bishop takes c7, rook takes c7, I think white just has a clear advantage. after something like d takes e4, queen to b5, getting out of the pin, and then if we attack rook to b8, we could just play rook to b7. And then we have quite the edge. Actually, we could even just play something like queen to c4, keeping control of the c file. So, okay, going back to the original sacrifice, we can see that taking on b5 leads to a lot of complications, which seems to lead to an advantage for white. So the question is, what if can black decline the sacrifice and just get away with maybe just losing a pawn? So I looked at that a little bit, and the problem here is that black can't just castle right away because he's going to lose this bishop or this knight here. Let me just show you that because the queen is the only thing protecting. So he has to do something else. And so let's take a look here. If he plays something like rook to a7, this seems a little bit awkward, but it protects this knight and allows this king to get away next if he so chooses. However, tactics seem to be on white's side here as well. After bishop takes d7 check and rook takes d7. Now if queen takes d7, then queen takes a5, wins a piece. So after rook takes d7, so that the queen will keep contact here, then we can play something like e takes d5. And if black takes back, knight takes d5 looks pretty strong here. Now we're still threatening things like knight to c7 check. And now black can castle to get out of trouble here. And now he's threatening to take here. But now bishop to c7 works. Okay, we're threatening the queen and the rook here. Now, of course, if black takes here, then we can just take back here. And if the rook takes, then we are up quite a bit of material. A queen for queen and a few pawns for the two minor pieces. So that should be enough to win. But if he sacrifices the exchange here, then we have knight takes c7, and this knight is still threatened. So if the knight were to retreat, this pawn is hanging, and this position just looks like a big edge for white as well. So at least from the surface of it, let's go back to the original position, it looks like bishop takes b5 would have been a great move. And as I mentioned before, I'm a little bit not as quick in analyzing during the game as I used to be, and maybe I was a little bit nervous. But hopefully, as my confidence grows, I'll be able to spot these types of positions in the game. So there it is. I hope you were able to find some of that analysis, and maybe you're able to correct some of it. If you do, please leave a comment with your analysis. I'm happy to look at that, and I appreciate it. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please press the like button and subscribe for future updates if you haven't done so already. Thanks again to Jeremy Lin. I really enjoyed analyzing that position, and hope you guys will join in on the conversation. It might lead to bonus videos like this, but at the very least we can have a conversation in the comments below. Okay, I will talk to you soon, and of course, good luck with your chess.